we're here on the last Sparrow tattoo with Josh Arment. Let's start out with how old you are.
Tough one. I just turned 32.
And where and when did you start tattooing?
Am I supposed to look here or you?
Where and when?
I started tattooing kind of in two places. I was in Florida at the time going to college, and I started tattooing out of my apartment. But that's just like getting this folding rig and putting a couple tattoos on your best friends and whatnot. But I officially started tattooing in Libertyville, Illinois, right outside Great Lakes Naval Base.
Did you do an apprenticeship there, or did you just get a job?
Oh, full-blown apprenticeship. Yeah, I mean, I was in contact with a woman, Denise Wolf, who had been in Chicago for a while, was with Bob Osland, was with Wes Grimm a little bit, like in relationships. And Bob helped her along the most, I assume, but I'd gotten tattooed by her because I went to high school right around Libertyville. So I got tattooed by her, went back down to Florida, was fucking around with the Spalding rigs, and then I was like, yo, I have no idea what I'm doing. If there's any instruction you can give me, I was like trying to buy an autoclave off of her and shit. If there's any instruction you can give me, let me know. She's like, nope, I already have an apprentice. Keith Underwood at the time was her apprentice. And she's like, nope, got no room, got no luck. Basically, go fuck yourself. Came back, got another tattoo from her, or I guess the extension of the tattoo that I originally got finished. And at that time, she had gotten knocked up. And so she needed to have a baby. So, second apprentice time, I came along. Me and Underwood were apprentices basically in an overlapping environment for about 6 months. And that was 97.
Do you think apprenticeships differ from back then to now?
Oh, fuck yeah. Kids are spoiled. I mean, they have everything handed to them. They have all their needle making. I mean, you meet an apprentice now. I'm teaching guys that have been tattooing for 3 years how to make their first tattoo needle. So yes, I think they are drastically different. I think the information that's out there, all that stuff, I think that there's no discipline, there's no game plan. The person that brings on an apprentice now doesn't really have a reason to have an apprentice other than they're pocketing a little scratch, or they're super slammed, they just need to teach somebody, or they're hella greedy and they want to open their second or third fucking tattoo shop, and so they need more crew. So they teach somebody, get them started on skin. There was this one kid around here, $1,500 apprenticeship, tattooing in 2 weeks. Had him on his second day tattooing himself. Just threw him right to a machine. Back at least 10 years ago. And I mean, I got onto it in the late 90s, but I mean, there was discipline. There was a reason for you to be there. It was a full-blown relationship where you were start and finish already thought about by the person teaching you. And it's not like that anymore.
The blind leading the blind.
Literally.
Why don't we talk about your own personal tattooing? Would you consider yourself having a personal style?
I mean, I think I'm still trying to find a personal style, if that's what you're supposed to do. I just try to do the tattoos that come in. I mean, I've always been up in a walk-in tattoo shop, so I really, haven't had to develop a style to consistently keep business. Like, I've just been able to take what comes in the door. So I like many styles of tattooing. I like, doing some tweaker tribal that comes in and honing a bad design. I like black and gray. I mean, as far as what I truly enjoy, or like try to find the fundamentals and perfect them, I guess would be American and Japanese tattooing. But more of a blend. I don't really feel that I can do traditional Japanese, So my shit's a blend of that.
Maybe more of like a white guy doing Japanese as opposed to...
Yeah, but I mean, the best white guy doing Japanese was motherfucking Ed Hardy.
Sure.
And so, if you could even hit near that, that's pretty good. I don't want to be a white guy doing just traditional Japanese. I think that shit's kind of lame, because you're not Japanese, you're just a white dude.
Yeah.
But what Ed captured with the East meets West blend, and leaving open skin all over, and just looking at Japanese art through the eyes and the technical ability of a white guy, if I could ever achieve that, that'd be fun.
How did you get started? How did you get started in tattooing? What sparked your interest, or maybe your first thoughts of, I want to get into this, I want to do this?
I want to get into it, want to do it, or my first sparks of tattooing?
I mean, really leading up to any of it at all?
I mean, my grandfather was heavily tattooed, U.S. military Navy guy. When he was dying on his deathbed, I was like 4 years old or something, so I'd draw in between his tattoos with a little pen. I had to have been older than that, but somewhere around there, really young. That's my first, like, oh shit, tattoos are hella masculine, I love this shit, I'm into it. But as far as like wanting to do it or thinking I could do it would probably be high school. I mean, the first tattoo magazine I picked up was Tattoo Ink, I-N-K. But back then, it was like decent. I believe it was called Tattoo Ink, yeah. Had an article on Tom DeVito in it, but at the same time it had some Gaiachus and shit in it, and I thought, man, you can do that with tattoos. So, I was in my teens, I guess.
What are your greatest influences?
Tattoo-wise?
You could separate it. You could do tattoo-wise, and then you could do life in general-wise.
I mean, influences in life, I'd probably say my mom and dad, but as far as tattooing, I mean, the obvious, you know what I mean? Ed Hardy's a huge influence on me. Mike Malone, person that furthered my education in tattooing, huge influence. You know, any black and gray, I mean, the people that I work with that have come and gone through my shop, you know, mostly, especially guest artists, considering our current predicament, but I would say that a majority of those guys really fed me, you know what I mean? In my travels, when I travel, I'll get fed the most thing. I mean, I'm just trying to absorb it all, you know?
You do travel with tattooing, so maybe you want to talk about some of the places that you've been, or people that you met, or...
I mean, I've been fortunate since the get-go, you know? I've gotten to go to Japan, I've gotten to go to Europe. I've traveled independently throughout the South American countries, but also outside of that. But as far as tattooing, I mean, am I supposed to like talk about shops?
If you want to. Talk about what you want. Shops?
Man, some of my funnest places to work. Spotlight, I love that place. I've gone there many times. I love Temple. I love the whole Oakland scene. I haven't tattooed in SF, but I like going there. I like going to Chicago and doing some tattoos, although that's where I came from, so it's kind of like this weird, jarring experience where the customers that you have in Chicago, it's a very different breed, so tattooing there, not so much, but I like visiting there, and I like Chicago Tattoo as a shop. Haven't tattooed on the East Coast.
You want to talk about your own shop?
The Aloha Monkey.
Sure.
Love to. It's a great place, man. Fun place to be. I was given that shop, or given the offer to that shop by Mike Malone. We're going to have to rewind a little bit. Sure. The whole reason I'm even in Minnesota, I didn't even think when I was living in Chicago and tattooing around the Great Lakes via my apprenticeship, I didn't think there was anything north of there. I mean, I went to school there. I didn't think there was any big cities in Wisconsin. Fuck if I ever thought about Minneapolis, you know. I mean, it was just kind of like Chicago. But Underwood and I started corresponding with Rollo. And through that correspondence, you know, about paintings and machines and whatnot. Through that correspondence, found out he was opening a tattoo shop in Minnesota. That was 99 he was going to open, but this is like late 98. I'd only been tattooing for a minute too. So he opened in April of 99. Underwood came up here, worked with him. I started coming up here like all the time. I mean, Underwood and I were tight at the time, you know. So I started coming up here all the time. And loved it, loved learning from Mike. I mean, some of the first watercoloring paintings that I ever did, even flash images, was because of Mike Malone. I mean, my stuff when I was in Lucky 7 down by the Great Lake Naval Facility, that stuff was busted. And nobody knew how to watercolor there, so I was stumped. But would come up here, visit with him quite often, and then he finally, relationship quit on him, and he needed a roommate, so we all lived together, us three. And then I started working at the Monkey, and early 2000, late 99, early 2000, the winter. And 2001 took over ownership because Rollo wanted to retire. His mom was sick in Roanoke Park, and so he wanted to retire, go take care of her. And so I took over the shop. I actually didn't want to take over the shop, as a matter of fact. It was proposed to me because if not, it would have closed. And at the time, I was a young buck tattooer, man. I wanted to travel. I wanted to feed my thirst, you know what I mean? I wanted to quench it. And I didn't really want it. But the old man said, man, you'd be a fool if you let this place close. He goes, I'd only been tattooing a couple years when I got Jerry's shop. And if I leave, I'm going to close it. If you take it over, it'll be the best thing you ever did. And he hasn't been wrong yet.
I mean, you took over a shop being pretty young in tattooing. You think that
Yeah, I was like 23.
you think that maybe changed how your career panned out, or how it would have ended up if you didn't?
I mean, I feel honored that I got to take over that tattoo shop.
Sure.
I mean, and the knowledge that he gave me, I just try to do right by it. You know what I mean? He always said, like, keepers of the flame, holders to tradition, or something like that. But, you know, through keeping it open, now other people can kind of see it the way it semi was. I mean, although the business plans changed and volumes changed, there's still an essence of him there. And, you know, I often think about how he would have done things, you know. But did it alter my career? Heavily. I mean, I didn't go anywhere for 8 years. I sat in a walk-in shop. But I got more benefits from sitting in a walk-in shop than a lot of guys could have gotten doing 1 or 2 tattoos a day. There's always that grass is greener on the other side thing, you know. Brian and I started at the same time, Brian Burke and I. And I was always fond that he got to excel at the art of it for so long. Doing 1, 2 tattoos a day, really pushing his drawings when I was just sitting there doing volume. But I think there's a lot of things that a volume street shop tattooer can do that a lot of those custom guys can't. Although, on the art side, I try to strive for that custom guy deal. The walk-ins definitely changed my career for sure.
And you definitely consider your shop a walk-in shop, and there's obviously a difference between walk-in shop and custom-only shop.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, both are great. I've often, because the grass is greener on the other side, thought that I wanted to have a custom shop or be in a custom shop. You know, maybe not run my own gig. But there's a rhythm and an energy to a tattoo shop that does walk-ins that you just can't get. There's a hustle and flow to it. I mean, it's magical, dude. I mean, there's so much annoyance to it, but there's so much on your toes trying it now kind of deal. You know, a lot of guys can't do letters. You know, custom guys that can't do letters. They can draw this beautiful, large-scale work. They understand composition, but they can't compose a letter. Or do compositions that are small. You know, I think the walk-in thing benefits a tattooer the most. You have to draw everything. Stuff you don't want to do, you have to make it look good. So, I think I answered your question.
Do you have any hobbies outside of tattooing?
Most of my times to tattooing, I like riding motorcycles, man, and everything that comes with it. I like fixing motorcycles.
Mm-hmm.
That's a recent thing, you know, that's probably in the last 5 years or so. But, it's a good time, man. It takes the stress off, you know what I mean? There's definitely a zen to it. Richard Stell told me that a drawing you can always fix, and that stuff's liberating. Try to put a nut in the wrong hole, a screw in the wrong hole. That's the most aggravating thing you can possibly do because you can't change physics of, like, working on a bike.
Sure.
That has to work. You can't manipulate it, but like a drawing you can totally manipulate. So it aggravates the shit out of me, but I enjoy motorcycles.
It's an outlet outside of tattooing.
For sure. And it's creative as hell, and it's with different fabric. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't do all metal fabrication, but the aesthetics there, you know what I mean?
And you do other type of things, like build machines or paint flash?
I don't build machines because I really just haven't had any interest in it. I have built machines, you know. When you worked for Mike, you had to build machines. You had to know how to work on them, and I think that's a must for a tattooer. But there's so many guys that put way more time and build them way better than I would. I gotta pick my battles. And most of my time spent dealing with the business of the tattoo shop, you know what I mean?
Sure.
I don't have a partner or anything, it's just me.
What do you think about the progression or the watering down of tattooing from maybe when you got into the business as to now?
Progression or regression?
It's
Yeah.
it's your answer, so you could say whichever you would like to say about it.
The progression's amazing to see how much good art can be done, but with that amount of volume of people that are so hip to it, that's where the regression comes, because there's a lot of failures out there. I mean, you go to any sporting event, man, or any beach, I would rather see somebody with no tattoos than a bad tattoo. I mean, much rather. It's just horrible. So there's a lot more bad with all the more good, you know? I mean, watering down, yeah, I mean, everything's weaker, you know? You get guys that are in the business for a couple of years think they know everything, man. When 10 years hit me, and now, I think I know nothing. They don't question themselves enough. They don't look to their peers for information. They jock their peers, but they don't look to their peers for information or criticism, which is super important, you know. They get real pompous and they don't. They get real pompous and they basically copy each other. And I think that's a little lame in tattooing. I mean, there was, again, not enough information back in the day that you had to kind of do it yourself a little bit. And now there's an excess of an information out there, so people are just cutting and pasting tattoos. I mean, there's people out there that do lettering with Photoshop. They don't hand letter. What the fuck's wrong with them?
Lettering's a pretty important part of tattooing.
I feel so. I mean, Rollo always said that you could ruin a perfect tattoo if the lettering in a banner sucked ass. You know, a bunch of white people putting script in a banner. Shit's no good.
How did you either get invited or meet Bob to get to go and work at Spotlight?
That was a relationship that kind of happened on a whim. I wanted to see Spotlight, and I finally got a chance to go to LA. I was young. Mike was still alive. And I went there, and I wanted to see Bob Roberts. I walked into Spotlight, met Bob Roberts. He just happened to be there that day. And I was with my old lady at the time. She got tattooed the next day. Or no, she got tattooed that day. I got tattooed the next day. She got a peony in her armpit. But, yeah, just from that tattoo, we just started jiving, man. I really respected the shit out of his artwork since the get-go. I mean, Mike Malone respected his tattooing immensely. And always talked about him, and so, you know, I got to see his work, was totally pumped by it, knew I wanted a ton of it. So, through the relationship of getting tattooed by him and just jiving with him, he invited me out. Or not really invited me out, he just said anytime I'm in LA I can put tattoos there. So
awesome. Do you have any plans for the future? Clothing line, TV show, anything like that?
That's serious.
How do you feel about tattoo magazines as opposed to when you first got in the business till now?
I definitely felt the strongest artists were featured in the earlier tattoo magazines than now. A lot of the strongest artists in our community don't want to put pictures in there just because it's such a hassle. I mean, there's fucking MySpace, Facebook, all these places you gotta be. It's overwhelming, and they don't really believe in the ownership of the magazines, or they don't really feel like sending out pictures. I've never sent pictures to any magazine. I mean, Mike told me early on, he was like, yo man, you send pictures now, you're gonna be known from now. So, Mark Landis is showing up. So, I like looking at them better than like getting out old Outlaw Biker Tattoo magazine. It's bad to the bone, right?
Yeah.
There's early stuff, Mahoney King. Nowadays, there's a bunch of weak stuff.
Sure. Are there any conventions that you plan on doing in the future? Any traveling or places that you want to go work?
I like to do more traveling, definitely with tattooing. As far as places to work, I like to work all around the country, man. With some of my friends that I haven't gotten to work with because of the running of the business, you know.
Yeah.
I would like to get a full crew again and be able to travel a little bit more.
And anything else you'd like to say in closing?
Peace.
I've got such a big thing.
Now you've heard it. Josh Arment on the last Sparrow tattoo.